My name is Anil Yanamandra. Today, I'll introduce you to AWS Agent Registry. A quick intro of myself. I work as a forward deployed engineer in applied AI at PwC. I have about 18 years of experience building global consumer-facing applications. I'm focused on applied AI and enterprise transformation using generative AI. And I'm also AWS Community Builder. So if you look at the landscape of agentic resources and building, right? So we've moved from prototyping and evaluating the capabilities to more of a fleet and a platform situation, right? So it used to be, can I build this? Can we automate a specific flow? And then how do we onboard the resources that we've built to have all the teams use that, right? So now we have multiple agents, multiple MCP servers, skills that all teams are building. And at an enterprise level, they become a pile of, they become a fleet of agentic resources, right? So the problem now is, are we duplicating the resources? Are we making sure we are able to govern what is being built? Are we able to provide a platform where people can discover what is available instead of rebuilding another copy of it, right? So this is probably what it would look like, right? So there are multiple agents, multiple tools, multiple skills that are built in your enterprise. The three problems that surface are visibility, control, and reuse, right? Where do these exist? Who manages these? Who can publish them? Who can curate them, right? And then reuse, how do I discover if I'm trying to build, let's say, as an example, code review MCP server? Is there something existing in the enterprise instead of me trying to build it for my own team, right? So AWS Agent Registry provides the framework for these problems, right? So it is a centralized repository for organizing your agentic resources. There are curation controls, right? So there's the personas of admins and creators, and it goes through a funnel of states, approval state, so that you can manage the resources. And the framework also provides search capability, so not just keyword matching, but based on the context of the query in a natural language search as well. So one thing to note is the registry is actually a catalog of metadata. It has no bearing to the actual resource itself. So you're not building the MCP server, you're not building the agent, you're just exposing the metadata about this resource. Hey, this particular agent exists, here's what its capabilities are, here's how you get connected to it, and that becomes the record that is managed by the agent registry, right? So overall, the registry becomes the control plane, and then you have personas of a publisher and curator, right? So publisher is I, as a dev team, I'm creating an agentic resource, right? It could be an MCP server, agent, a custom resource. And a curator is more of an admin that is reviewing it, approving it, or denying it, and managing the state of it, right? And then these are exposed via search API, and the registry itself is exposed as an MCP server, right? So the registry supports 4 kinds of record types. We will go through those, right? So in terms of like nomenclature, right? So talked of the registry, the record is the metadata, right? So I'm describing what my agent is or a tool is. It's just the metadata of it. Each type of the record has some additional information. MCP has a structure, A2A, agent has a specific structure, a skill has a specific structure. And then on the right, you're seeing the persona. So I could be either a publisher, curator, or consumer. So you have your IAM users that are mapped to one of these roles in the registry, right? So you could be a team developing the resource, or you could be an admin managing those, or you could be a consumer that is discovering and using them in your workflow. So at a high level, the record itself would look like this. It has name, description, a record version, and the two orange, descriptor type and descriptor is based on the specific type of the resource. You have so this shows an example of an MCP server. So it has the server definition. It has the tools that are part of this MCP server. The approval process kind of goes through this, right? So you create a resource, it's in the state creating. Once you start editing it, it moves to a draft state. When you submit it, it goes into pending approval. It either gets approved or rejected. So if it gets rejected, there'll be a feedback from the curator, and it goes back to draft state. If it is approved, it is now available for discovery through the search, right? So the search would look something like this. So if you look at the query here, right? So I'm just saying code review security, right? So it's a natural language search, and it is able to pull matching resources. It maps out everything that's part of the registry with the matching record, and it surfaces that for the user to use. Like we talked, the registry itself is an MCP server. So you're defining the agent registry and the URL for it. It supports OAuth and JWT tokens. And it has this is showing you what the search tool would look like, right? So you're defining the query, a filter on max results, and a filter of what kind of resource you're searching for. So we'll go through a demo of the same MCP use case we talked about. We'll create an MCP server that has a tool for code review, and these will be the 4 states. So some of these states will be mocked for the demo purposes. We'll go through a notebook. Okay, so this is a notebook that sets up various personas, and it's trying to create a registry here, right? So this step here shows how you would create a registry. Once you create a registry, these are the fields that are metadata fields for the registry itself. There's an identifier and status, and it's showing you authorization. There's also a flag for auto approval, right? You could set it to true if you wanted. So here we're defining the permissions, right? So the admin, the publisher, and consumer. These are 3 different policies that you're defining. So this is mocking what the policy would look like, right? So all of this is using the CLI, AWS CLI. Here we are creating the personas, the 3 personas we talked of. So you have the administrator, the publisher, and consumer. And then to create a record, so this is the agentic resource that will be mapped into the agent registry, right? So this is an example of tool. So this tool the name is review code, and it analyzes source code for security issues, right? So this is an example of how you would describe the record for an A2A resource. And then here's an example of a custom resource, right? So it's a pipeline in this example that is being published to the registry. So the description, the kind, we talked of the descriptor type and the specific metadata associated with that descriptor type. So that's being logged here, right? Register records as a publisher, right? So here what we're trying to do is I'm a register, I'm a, okay, sorry. So this is the publisher persona, right? So the publisher has created an agentic resource and is publishing that into the registry. And like we talked, when you submit it, it moves into a draft state, right? So unless an approver picks it up and approves it, it stays in that, right? So by default, these personas, if you remember, we've applied a specific policy for it. If you try to approve a resource, a record as a publisher in this publisher persona, if you try to approve it, the access is denied. As a consumer, you cannot create a record, right? So each persona has specific permissions that it can run. So it's all encompassed in the persona that you would attach to. So if you want an IAM user to have multiple personas, you can add all of those permissions to that specific IAM user, right? So the submission and approve would look like this. So you take the record and then you say the approved, and then there's a comment logged, right? And that gets passed through the states. And now you have the 3 records that we created that are in the approved state. Discovery of approved records. This is the use case where you're searching for it. So we're searching for the MCP server that we just created, right? So it's searching for it, and it goes through the search, and the result would be the approved record discovered. It shows you what it does. So the flow that it would look like is you could integrate this MCP server into your Kiro or Cursor or any agentic VS Code. And then if you are looking for a specific internal tool, you could search with natural language, and that tool or that resource get added. You discover it and you work with it. It discovered into your workflow. So that was the overview, and let's quickly recap with the 3 things we learned about, or the session, what you should be walking out with from this session. The registry is a catalog of metadata. It has nothing to do with the resource itself, right? So it's like a app store, if you will, of all the agentic resources that were approved for use. The life cycle itself governs the discovery, right? So unless the resource is in an approved state, it will not be visible for the consumers. The discovery belongs in the workflow. Basically, once it is approved, you could search that through the MCP server and pull that into your workflow, and you can augment it, use it, publish it. So that is it. The session content and the notebook material, all of those are linked in the QR code there, the session feedback, and my LinkedIn